Okay, let's look at keyboard tracking. So if I set up a sound like this, where you can hear I've got a nasal tone coming from the resonance of the filter, and that nasal tone stays exactly where it is as I move up and down the keyboard. Now if I turn the tracking on to full, you can hear that nasal tone tracks the keyboard 100%. It's always the same interval away from the fundamental, from the note you're playing. That means you can tune it to a useful note. Like there, it's like 2 or 3 octaves up. There's like an octave and a fifth up. Yeah, and all the time it's tracking the note you're playing on the keyboard. If you have it somewhere in between and you have a resonant note, it's going to be pretty weird. Alright, let's look at this, which is the negative polarity version of the envelope. So here's my regular envelope. So it goes up, it goes down to the sustain point, and then I take my hand off and you can't really hear the release. So now if I put it into negative, nothing happens. Okay, needed to put the frequency up a bit. So now you can hear what happens is it starts at the top frequency that it's going to get to. It goes all the way down to the bottom, then it comes straight up again, which is the decay setting. And then it goes up to the sustain level. It's doing the same as the regular envelope, but in reverse, upside down. It's pretty crazy. Were you going as you were listening to that? I was. I see, it's fun, isn't it? Next is VCA, voltage controlled amplifier. That's just like your amp on your stereo. It's the volume. Let's get rid of the crazy negative filter envelope. Yeah. So that's just your amp. And here we've got gate or envelope setting. So if it's on envelope, then the amp, the volume is going to follow this envelope here. And if I put it on gate, it's going to ignore this envelope. As soon as I play a note, it's going to get to 100% volume and stay there. As soon as I release the note, it's going to go to 0. So that's good if you want to do something interesting with your filter envelope. And you really want to hear the front of the note, so the volume is 100% as soon as you hit it. So then you're just listening to the interesting attack of the filter. Alright, let's have a look at the envelope. We've kind of been talking about it already, but let's have a quick look. I've got this set up so the amp is going to be affected by the envelope, and also the filter is at the same time, so it's just the clearest way for us to hear it. So the attack is a measure of time. It's how long it takes for it to go from 0 to maximum. So either instant or taking a bit of time or quite long. Then after it's got up to 100%, it's going to start making its way down to the sustain level. And the length of time it takes to go from the top to the sustain is the decay time. Here's the sustain. The sustain is the odd one out because it's a measure of level, like volume, not a measure of time. So if you've got like a piano type sound, it's not very piano-y because the filter doesn't do that on a piano, but something that is struck like a piano key, it starts at 100% and it decays down to nothing. Or you might have a sound like an organ that starts at 100% and stays there. Or something in the middle. Once the sound gets to that sustain level, it stays there for as long as you hold the keys on. And then the release here is how long the sound takes to go back to zero when you've released the keys. So there's a longer release. And here's instant. Okay, next, chorus. I haven't really tried those buttons, I don't really know what they do. Turn that resonance down though. Yeah, so there's the classic Juno chorus. Number 2 is kind of wider than number 1. I really think it's a masterstroke to put a chorus unit on this synth, because on the one hand you've got this brutally punchy signal made by the DCO. Where you're stacking things on top of each other and it's all perfectly in tune. And then on the other hand, you've got this massive width and warmth of this classic chorus unit. And that spreads the sound out, so it sounds enormous. Let's move on to the lower panel. Hooray! Key transpose. So you hold the button down, hit a key that's some distance away from C, and then it transposes the keys by that amount. There you go. Let's look at poly 1 and 2. The Juno 106 is a 6-voice synth. It's got 6 identical voice chips, so you can play up to 6 notes at once. But you can't play any more than that. That's why it's called the Juno 106. The number of voices a synth has is normally contained somewhere in the name. So we've got Juno 106, which has 6 voices. The Prophet 5 has got 5 voices. The Matrix 6 has got 6 voices. And the Matrix 1000 has got 1,000 voices. These buttons here determine how the Juno allocates those 6 voices to the notes that you play. I think in poly 1 mode, it's cycling around all 6 voices, even if you just keep playing one note. But if you repeat a note in poly 2 mode, it will keep using the same voice, and it only starts to use the other voices if you hold down more notes. So you need poly 2 to use portamento. What's portamento? Well, let's switch it on and find out. That's portamento. When you play a note with portamento on, the pitch slides up or down from the pitch of the last note that you played. And the portamento knob decides how long it takes to do that. On the Juno it works with chords too. Here's a cool thing. Play 3 notes down there, 3 notes up there, and then stick a chord down in the middle. Alright, so that's portamento. Let's go back to the poly modes. If you hit both together, then you get unison mode. Yeah, so hear how it's quite nasal. It's like kind of phasing, isn't it? Because you've got all these oscillators doing exactly the same thing at exactly the same pitch. Okay, let's just bust through these last few buttons. MIDI channel. You hold down the button and press one of these buttons to select one of your 16 MIDI channels. Next, your group select. Basically, you've got 2 groups, what we normally call banks, of 64 sounds, giving you 128 sounds in total. So group A is red, group B is green. 128 patch memories is pretty good, I reckon. The Juno 106 only got 56. So you select your group, then you select your bank number, and you select your patch number. You don't have to select all of them. You can run through all the patches in one bank. Pretty straightforward. Okay, moving on. Here's the manual button. What the manual button does is it sets the sound to the position of all the knobs and faders. So the sound that you're hearing is the sound that you're looking at. So for instance, here's my basic saw sound. My envelope is showing something different to what we're hearing because this is just the preset. So as soon as I press the manual button, now we're hearing the sound of what that envelope's doing, as well as everything else on our control panel. Pretty useful. Alright, here's the write button. That's for writing sounds. So you program your sound that you want. Let's say I want that sound. Then you hold down the right button. You make sure you select the right group and you select a bank number and a patch number. So when you come back to that same patch number, there's your sound. Cool. The save button, if you've got we normally call it a bank, but let's call it a group of sounds. What you can do is save that entire bank of 64 sounds onto a DAW, onto something like Logic. I'm just going to call it Logic from now on. So all you do is you connect a jack cable from the save jack of your Juno, this one here, plug it into your DAW, hit record on your DAW, and then just hit save on your Juno. Let's do it now. Let's try this. Yeah, so it sounds like that. It's saving your patches as audio. Just plugging myself back in here. So then what you can do is you can verify that what you recorded is what the Juno has got stored on it. So you connect your output of Logic and put it into the load jack of the Juno, hit verify, and then play your audio out that you just recorded. And if it's exactly the same, you get those 2 lines. And so that's telling you that what you've just recorded is exactly what it's got stored. So that's a useful verify function. And load works the same way. Connect the output of Logic to the input of this load jack. Hit load, play your audio, and it loads that bank of patches. Really useful. Okay, finally, let's look at these controls over here. We've already dealt with portamento. This DCO slider, that governs how much the pitch is going to bend, the pitch of your oscillator, when you move the pitch bend wheel. So I've got it set to a tone there, which is kind of the standard thing, but it can be anywhere up to an octave. Down to nothing. VCF, that does the same thing. This time it's going to change this cutoff frequency when you move the pitch bend wheel. Pull the pitch bend wheel up, it gets brighter, and if you push it down, it gets darker. Bit of resonance maybe. And if you want, you can have both pitch bend and filter cutoff. Cool. And here's the last one, the last control, LFO. What you're deciding here is how much the LFO, this LFO, is going to affect the pitch. So it's just the same as this slider here, but it only happens when you press the pitch bend wheel up. So that's your classic vibrato there. That's it, we've got through all the functions of the Juno 106. Well done on achieving full mastery of the instrument. So the question is, what are you going to do now that you're a Juno master? Well, here's what I think you should do. You're an artist, right? So let's make some art.